Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Babylon Talmud, Daf Memhe of Berachos. We are starting today the seventh parak of Berachos, the parak of Shlosh Shach Lukachas, which talks about benching. So we're going to jump right in and talk about the chiyuv of making a zimun when three people get together to say nivarech, that we will bless together as a group as opposed to as individuals. Who is required? Who does this chiyuv apply to? How many people? Which people? And what do you do if you if you are at a zimun but you didn't actually eat anything? What do? Do you just keep quiet and say nothing? Do you say what everybody else is saying? Is there something special that you say? We are going to answer all of these questions, or at least try to. So let's jump in, friends. Let's jump in. Shlosh shach lukachas. So if you're wondering where we're starting at the beginning of the parak on Mem Hey Amud Aleph. Shlosh shach lukachas. Three people who ate together. Chayavin lizamein. They have an obligation to make a zimun, and as Rashi explains, a zimun is when you join together with, join all three of them together in order to bench with saying nivarech, we will bless God together, as opposed to as individuals. Achol demai, great. We talked about demai a few days ago in the context of the what was it? The novlos, right? Novlos, whatever, those dates that fell off the tree. And anyways, demai is when you have produce that is being sold by an am haaretz, and you are not sure if they separated maaser or not, because maaser is 10% of the crop, and that might just feel like too much for people who don't care enough about maaser, and therefore they might not separate maaser. So therefore we don't know. Demai really means da-mai. This, what is it? Has maaser been separated from it or not? And you need to separate maaser on your own, out of safek, out of doubt. Now, what if you ate demai without separating maaser? So you can nonetheless make a zimun even if you ate demai. This is talking about, okay, so we've talked about a few times, it's come up a few times, Ma'aser Rishon, Ma'aser Sheni, Truma, things like that. But what we haven't yet talked about is what's called Trumas Ma'aser. There's another part to Ma'aser, and that is, so again, you have your field. You take 2% of your crop and you give that to a Kohen. You then take from the remaining amount 10%, and that's Ma'aser Rishon. And you give that to a Levi. Now, the Levi, okay, when he gets his Ma'aser, he then takes 10% from the 10% that you gave him, and he gives that to the Kohen, okay? And that's what's called Trumas Ma'aser. That is the donation from his Ma'aser. So if you're eating Ma'aser Rishon Shenit LeTrumaso, so Ma'aser Rishon that was given to Levi, then a Levi, as he was supposed to do, he separated already his 10% and he gave that to the Kohen, and now you're eating from that Truma, so that's from that Ma'aser, so then you would bench on that. Now, I believe anybody can eat Ma'aser. I think that the Levi can just give it to whoever he wants, meaning we give the Ma'aser to the Levi, but then once he has it, I think he can do whatever he wants with it. It's not like Truma that only a Kohen can eat it. I think, and I think we might find out later on in the Gemara. Fine. Ma'aser Sheni v'Hekdesh Sheniftu. If you remember from the very beginning of the previous parak, when we were talking about Neter Ravai, and we talked about Ma'aser Sheni, right? Ma'aser Sheni is that second 10% that you take from the field, right? You take 2%, give it to the Kohen, 10% give it to the Levi, then you take an additional 10% and you take that to Jerusalem and you eat it there. However, if you don't want to schlep it to Jerusalem and eat it there, you can transfer its kedusha onto money, and then you take the money to Jerusalem, and then you can eat the food, right? Same thing, hekdesh. I assume hekdesh is talking about like if you set aside an animal or something to bring to the Beis Hamikdash, and then you end up just transferring its kedusha to money, and then you're going to buy an animal in Jerusalem with that money and offer it. So you could then, so Maaser Sheni and hekdesh, that you've transferred their kedusha onto money, now you can do what you would like with the Ma'aser Sheni and the Hekdesh. And if you eat it, so then you can make a zimun on that. And a waiter who joined you for an olive's worth of food, so then you can include him. assuming that he's still friends with you after you rubbed the remaining oil on his head. Okay? Ve'akusi mizamnin olav, and a kusi you can include in a zimun. Who is a kusi? So kusim are these people that the Assyrian king, at one point, he drove out the 10 tribes of Israel and moved them somewhere, I don't know, I guess to Assyria or something. And then, there was lots of empty land in Eretz Yisrael. So he replaced them with these Kusi people. Now, the thing is, these Kusi people, they didn't know much about Yiddishkeit. So they weren't serving the Eibishter in Eretz Yisrael. And because, Eretz Yisrael is a very special place. You have to be doing the Ratzon Hashem over there. So because they didn't know how to do the Ratzon Hashem, lions were coming and they were killing them. So the Assyrian king sent some Kohanim to Eretz Yisrael to teach them about Yiddishkeit, about Torah and mitzvahs. So, and they said about the Kutim that they basically, I guess they converted to Judaism, and they would do mitzvahs, but at the same time, in order to hedge their spiritual bet, they would also serve their idols and do avodah zarah. So they kind of would get the, I guess in their eyes, the best of both worlds. And anyways, so there's a machlokas of were they gerei arayos or gerei emes, or were they true converts, or did they only convert to be spared from the lions? In any event, if you include a kuti in your zimun, it's okay, it works. Achal tevel, if you ate untithed food, ma'aser rishon shelo nidla trumaso, or ma'aser rishon that the Levi did not give his trumas ma'aser to the Kohen, ma'aser sheni v'hekdesh shelo niftu, or you just eat, ma'aser sheni and hekdesh that really you're supposed to bring to Jerusalem, but you didn't, you just ate it. V'hasham shachol pachos mikazayis, or a waiter that ate less than a kazayis, v'anochri, and a Gentile, ein mezamnin olav, you may not include them in the zimun. Noshim v'avadim uktanim, ein mezamnin alehen. Women and avadim kina'anim, non-Jewish slaves, viktanim, minors, ein mezamnin alehen, you cannot would not include women or avadim kina'anim or minors in a zimun. However, we will learn in the Gemara that they can make their own zimuns. Ad kama mizamnin, how much does a person have to eat in order to be eligible for a zimun, or chayav really to make a zimun? Ad kazayas, Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad kabetza. So Tanakama says that they have to eat a kazayas worth of food, whereas Rabbi Yehuda says they have to eat an egg's worth of food, which of course is larger than a kazayas. Says the Gemara, so how do we know that 3 people are, significant enough to be able to come together to bless? So Amar Vasi, the Amar Kra. So Vasi says, well, we have a pasuk. This pasuk is in Tehillim. It says, Gadlu la Hashem iti. Gadlu is plural, right? So it's me speaking to, minimum of plural is 2 people. So me speaking to 2 people, and I say, Gadlu la Hashem iti. Will you make God's name great with me? So we're now a group of 3 people, right? Me speaking to 2 people and saying, hey, let's make God's name great together. And we'll exalt his name together. So we see that 3 people can come together to praise God. Rabbi Abo Amar Zakt Rabbi Abo Mehacha. It comes from here. Kishem Hashem Ekra, when I will call out in the name of God, Havu Godel Elokenu. You, plural, you, again, minimum of plural is 2. So when I call out to God, you, 2 people, will give greatness to our God. So again, a group of 3. Okay. Amar Rav Chanan bar Abba, Zokt Rav Chanan bar Abba, Minay lo'one amen shlo yagbia kolo yoser min ha'mevarich. Very interesting. How do we know that somebody who's saying amen, you shouldn't say it louder than the person who's making the blessing, right? So if somebody says Kilu Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shakonim v'dvaro, don't yell amen, because the person didn't yell the bracha. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Gadul Hashem iti unramash mo yachdav, right? Make God's name great with me, and we'll exalt his name together, that we should all be on the same decibel level. Amr Reb Shimon ben Pazi, Zok Reb Shimon ben Pazi, Minayin she'ena metargim rasha lagbia kol yosem min hakore. How do you know that the translator should not raise his voice louder than the reader? So if I understand correctly, this is a reference to how they used to do it back in the day, and I think that in certain Yemenite shuls they do it to this day, which is that as they would read from the Torah, they would read one pasuk and then they would translate it into Aramaic. So how do we know that the translator should not translate into Aramaic louder than the reader is reading it in the original text? Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Moshe yidaber, Moshe would speak, ve'elokim, and God, ya'anenu b'kol, would answer him b'kol, with a voice. She'ein tamu lomar b'kol. What's the word b'kol doing there? Uma tamu lomar b'kol, b'kolo shel Moshe. That God would answer Moshe in his voice, i.e. on his decibel level. Tana Namiyachi, we talk learn in a brisa like this. The translator is not permitted to raise his voice louder than the reader. And conversely, if it is impossible for the translator to raise his voice to match the decibel level of the reader, Yima'ech hakore kolo v'yikra. So then the reader should lower his voice to match that of the translator. So basically, you want the reader and the translator, or I imagine the same would apply to a blesser and an amener. You want them to be on the same decibel level. Cool. Which means also, Kilu, if somebody makes a bracha, don't just whisper amen. You should try to really say amen on the same volume level as the person who's making the bracha. Fancy stuff, people. Friends. Zok the Gemara weiter. Itmar. Shnaim shachlu ka'achas. 2 people ate together. We were just talking about 3 people eating together. What if 2 people eat together l'maaseh? Can they make a zimun? Pligi Rav Yochanan. So Rav and Rabbi Yochanan actually argue about this case. Chad Amar imratzu l'zamin mezamnin. So one opinion was that if they want to make a zimun, they're allowed to make a zimun. The other opinion, of course, was if they want to make a zimun, 2 people cannot make a zimun. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, if 3, so this is our Mishnah, it says 3 people who ate together, chayavin lezamin, so they have a chiyuv to make a zimun. Shlosha in shnaim lo, and we want to argue that 3 people have a chiyuv to make a zimun, 2 people don't. So there you have it. 2 people don't make a zimun. But the Gemara says that's not really a good proof. It's not really a good argument. No, the Mishnah is saying that 3 people have an obligation to make a zimun. We're not nobody's claiming here that 2 people have an obligation to make a zimun. We're saying if they want to, can they optionally make a zimun? That's all we want to know. So don't bring me proofs from the Mishnah that says that 3 people have to make a zimun. Enachinami. But we want to know about 2 people. So Tashma, Shlosha shachlu ka'achas, chayavin lezamin, ve'enu asharin lechalek. 3 people who ate together. So not only do they have to make a zimun, do they have a chiyuv to make a zimun, but they're not allowed to, bench on their own and break up that group. Okay? They have to stick together. So now the Gemara wants to say, or at least the way Rashi explains it, the point being that if 2 people were allowed to optionally make a zimun, so why can't one person just leave the group? You still have 2 people there, and if we're saying that 2 people can optionally make a zimun, so what's the big deal if one person leaves? The 2 remaining people could still make a zimun. So from the fact that we say that 3 people who ate together must stick together, it must be because by one person leaving, they're going to break up the ability to make a zimun, implying that 2 people cannot make a zimun. So we say shlosha in, shnaim lo. Only 3 people can make a zimun, not 2 people. So the Gemara once again answers, shiny hasam dekavulu b'chova meikara. No, it's different over there, because since when there were 3 people, they had a chiyuv to make a zimun. Okay, if one person leaves, even though possibly 2 people could make an optional zimun, but as Rashi points out, gadol ha-mitzuva v'oseh mimi she'einu mitzuva oseh. It's greater to do something when you have a chiyuv to do it than to do it when it's optional. And therefore, when they are together, they have an obligation to make a zimun. If one person leaves, even if theoretically 2 people would be able to make a zimun, it would only be optional. So that is why he cannot break up the obligatory zimun and leave them with a potentially optional zimun. Tashma, hashamish Shahaya Mishamish ala Shnaim. So if you have a waiter who is waiting on a party of two, Harezeh ochel imoim. So the waiter is allowed to pull up a chair and start eating with these two people the food that, of course, these two people paid for. And even though they didn't, give him permission to eat their food, he's allowed to. But if he was waiting on a party of three, he wouldn't be able to just pull up a chair and eat their food unless they give him permission to do so. So what does that imply? That two people are not able to make a zimun, because that's why the waiter is just allowed to pull up a chair and eat their food, because that way it's beneficial for everybody. He gets to eat their food, they get to make a zimun, everyone wins, implying that if there were only two, then they wouldn't be able to make a zimun. So the Gemara says no, shani hasam. Still, we could argue that it's different over there. No, it's not saying that if there were two people, they would be unable to make a zimun. No, if there were two people, they quite possibly would be able to make a zimun, but an optional zimun. By this waiter pulling up a chair and eating their food, so then now they are obligated in making a zimun, and they would and they value that obligation, and therefore we assume for them that they value this obligation, and we say that the waiter can just pull up a chair without asking permission and just eat their food. Tashma, come in here. Nashim mizamnus la'atzman, v'avadim mizamnim la'atzman. Okay, so women can make their own zimun. Avadim Kanaanim can make their own zimun. Nashim v'avadim ktanim imratzu lezamin ein mizamnin. However, if women and avadim Kanaanim and minors want to come together to make a zimun, right? One woman, one Eved Kanani, one minor, that would not work. Okay? Rashi says that because you have to worry about pritzus between the women and the male avadim Kananim, right? We want to avoid that in a zimun. And then interestingly, he says you have to worry about mishkav zachor between the Eved Kanani and the minors. In any event, we want to keep everybody separate. Now the Gemara asks, now, here's the thing. When it comes to zimun, so even though when it comes to benching, we talked about in Chaf Amud Beis whether women are chayavos in Berachos Hamazon midoraisa or midorabanan, it wasn't necessarily clear. But even if we say that women are chayavos to do Berachos Hamazon midoraisa, for some reason making a zimun would be optional. It wouldn't be obligatory. So now we're saying so we say that even if you have 100 women coming together to make a zimun, that zimun is still only going to be like 2 men making a zimun, i.e., we say that 3 men making a zimun have an obligation to make a zimun, less than 3 men would not have an obligation to make a zimun. So now we're saying that, even if you have 100 women coming together to make a zimun, it would only be like 2 men, okay? Uktani nashim mizamnus la'atzman v'avadim mizamnin la'atzman. And we say that women can make their own zimuns, and avadim kananim can make their own zimuns. So the point being that if 3 women can make a zimun, and they are basically the equivalent of 2 men making a zimun, so don't we see that 2 men can make a zimun? Interesting thought process. So the Gemara says, no, that's not a good proof to say that 2 men can make a zimun, because shiny hasam diika deos. No. When it's saying that 100 women are like 2 men to make a zimun, it's not saying that 2 men can actually make a zimun. It's focusing on the fact that 3 men would have a chiyuv to make a zimun, and we're saying that 3 or even 100 women making a zimun would be like two men, meaning to the extent that there's no chiyuv, they wouldn't be chayavos, it would only be optional. However, two men wouldn't actually be able to make a zimun optionally, they just wouldn't be chayav to make a zimun, whereas three women can make a zimun, it just would be optional. It would be a reshus. Because at the end of the day, you need three deos, you need three people, right? Two people cannot make a zimun, you need three people. Okay, very good. Says Rashi, Dika Deos, and he says in the middle there, Deos shlosha chashive lehodos tvei mishnei anashim, right? Dika mishum gadul Hashemiti. Oh, you still need three people because the Bible says gadul Hashemiti, right? There has to be three people, right? So as long as there are three women, they could make a zimun, but in terms of the chiyuv, it would be like two men to the extent that kilu, there would be no chiyuv, but not to say that two men can actually make a zimun because you would need three people. Fine. If it's all about deos, if it's all about having three people, ema seifa, well then I'll tell you the seifa of that brisa where it says that women and avadim kananiim make their own zimuns. Nashim v'avadim imratu lezamin ein mizamnin, right? That if women and avadim kananiim want to join together to make a zimun, they can't. Amai lo va'ika deos. Why can't they join together to make a zimun? There are three people. So shani yosem mishum pitzusa. No, it's different there because of pritzus, right? We don't want men and women coming together to make a zimun. We want to keep them separate. Okay, fine. So we haven't really proved either way whether two men can make a zimun or not. Says the Gemara, Tistayim de Rav de Amr Matzul Zamin E Mezamnin. So let's assume, remember, we had a machlok between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan about can two men make a zimun or not. So, or I guess two women for that matter as well. Tistayim de Rav de Amr Imratul Zamin E Mezamnin. So let's assume that it is Rav who was of the opinion that even if they want to make a zimun, they may not. The Amar Rav Dimi Bar Yosef Amar Rav, because Rav Dimi Bar Yosef said in the name of Rav, Shlosha sha'achlu ka'achas, if you have three people eating together, v'yotza echad mehem lashuk, and one of them went out to go to the shuk, korin lo mizamnin olav, so they call out to him and they make a zimun, like a long distance zimun. Okay, so we're saying time of the korin lo. The reason why they can make a zimun is because they called out to this guy. Hello, korin lo. But if they wouldn't have called out to him, i.e., they just would have said, "Hey, we're two people. Let's just make a zimun on our own." That wouldn't work. So again, the Gemara says, "No, shiny awesome. Don't try to prove anything from there." The akbulu b'chova meikara, because when they were three people, they had a chiyuv to make a zimun. So therefore, when they call out, so therefore they don't want to just, make a zimun of two people. That's why they call out to their friend. But if there were only two people to begin with, maybe Rav would say that they would be allowed to make a zimun, so you can't prove anything from there. So then Elas, and the Gemara tries to a different approach, to Saim de Rabbi Yochanan, who the Amar Matzul Zamin E Mezamnin. So let's say, fine, if it's not Rav, then maybe it's Taka Rabbi Yochanan who says that two people are unable to make a zimun. How come? The Amar Rabbi Bar Bachana Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Shnaim Sha'achlu Ka'achas, Echod Me'en Yotze Bevirkas Chavero. That Rabbi Bar Bachana says the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that if you have two people who ate together, one of them can be Yotze with his friend's bracha. Okay, so his friend is going to bench, and then he could be Yotze with his friend's benching if he listens and his friend has him in mind, etc. And we ask, "My kamash malan tanina shamav lo ana yotza." What? And then we ask, what's the chiddush of Rabbi Yochanan? We have a Mishnah that says that if I believe it's in the context of Hallel, that if you heard Hallel and you didn't answer it, you are nonetheless Yotze. So we see that one person is able to, be Motzi, his friend, in making a bracha. So V'amar Reb Zera, and Reb Zera answers, what is the chiddush of Rabbi Yochanan? Lomar she'en birkas hazimun beineim, to say that there's no birkas hazimun, because it says that one of them is being Yotze with his friend's bracha. And if they made a zimun, that means that they would all be joining together to say nivarech, and it would be their bracha, not his friend's bracha alone. So therefore, from the fact that we're saying that it can be Yotze with his friend's bracha, means that it's not his bracha, it's his friend's bracha, which means that they didn't make a zimun, and we see that two people do not make a zimun according to Rabbi Yochanan. This time, we say, Good detective work, friends. You got it. Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says that two people cannot make a zimun, which means that Rav says that two people can make a zimun. Amalei Rava by Ravuna Ravuna. So Rava by Ravuna said to, I guess, his father Ravuna, but how can you say that Rabbi Yochanan says that two people are unable to make a zimun, but the rabbis who came from Eretz Yisrael, which was where Rabbi Yochanan was, Amrei, they said, if two people want to make a zimun, they're allowed to make a zimun. My love, the Shmir Lum Rabbi Yochanan. And Mistama, if these rabbis were coming from Eretz Yisrael, who could they have heard it from other than Rabbi Yochanan? So it must be that Rabbi Yochanan says two people are allowed to make a zimun. So the Gemara answers a very interesting answer. Lo, the Shmir Lu Meirav Mikame Denachas Lebavel, that they heard this teaching that two people can make a zimun from Rav before he went to Bavel. Very interesting. Okay, because Rav, right, the Gemara in Sanhedrin talks about Rav and Rabbi Bar Chana, who was his first cousin once removed, that they moved from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. Very interesting. Okay. Gufa, we said earlier, Amar Rav Dimi Bar Yosef Amar Rav. Rav Dimi Bar Yosef said in the name of Rav, if you have three people who ate together, and one of them went out to the shuk, so they can call out to him and say, hey, Rabos Sainavarech, and he answers, all the way from the shuk. So, Amar Abai, Vudukari Levani. Now Abai says that's, of course, as long as he's close enough that when they call out to make the zimun, he's able to answer them. Amar Marzutra, it says Marzutra v'lo amaron ela b'shlosha. Marzutra says, and that is, you can only, do this fancy little thing where you call out to the guy when they are three people. Havabasar adinaisi. But if they are a minion and they want to mention God's name, right? Baruch, what is it called? Baruch Elokeinu shechalnu mishlo v'tuvo chayinu. So then they would have to have all 10 people. You can't be calling out, long distance when we're talking about God's name here. Maskefla Ravashi adrab. Ravashi says no. The opposite would actually make more sense. Ipcha mistavra. Tisha nirin kasar shnaime nirin kishlosha. 9 looks like 10 people. So therefore, I understand why 9 people would be able to call out to the 10th person and make a zimun that way, whereas 2 people don't look like 3 people. It's clearly 2 people, it's not 3 people. So therefore, in that case, we would need all 3 of them to be together. Okay, but the Gemara says nonetheless, Vilchsa Kamar Zutra. But the Gemara says no, the halacha is nonetheless like Marzutra, that for a minion you need all 10 over there, whereas by a zimun you could call out to the third person. My time, how come? Kevin the Bailad Kure Shem Shemaim Batzer Me'asar Lavorach Ara. Because since they're going to be mentioning God's name, it's not right to mention God's name with less than 10 people there. So, therefore, we don't want 9 people calling out to the 10th person. Let's go weiter, friends. Amar Abaye, Zokt Abaye, Nikitinan Shnaim Shachlu Ka'achas Mitzvah Lecholek. Oh, so we say that if you have 2 people eating together, they should each bench on their own. They shouldn't make a zimun. Taninam Yochi, we talk in a brisa like this. Shnaim Shachlu Ka'achas, if you have 2 people eating together, Mitzvah Lecholek. So they should break up. Bamedvar Mamurim, when do we say this? Kishashneim Sofrim, when they both are Sofrim. Now, Rashi doesn't say anything about Sofrim. Tosfos doesn't say anything about Sofrim. The thing that I look up in the back sometimes, words, whatever that thing is called, I'll tell you in a moment what it's called, the Sfas Hayam, he doesn't say anything about Sofrim. But apparently Sofrim seems to be referring to somebody who knows how to bench. Okay? So they both know how to bench, so then they should each bench on their own. Aval echad sofer v'echad bor, sofer mevarech uvor yotze. But if one of them knows how to bench, the other one doesn't know how to bench, so then sure, you could be motzi the other person. Okay, very, very good. Amar Rava zakt Rava, Hamilsa Amrisa Ana, Ve'itmira Mishmed Reb Zera Kavasi. So Rava said, I said the following statement, and I later learned that Reb Zera also said the same thing. So that's good for me. Now, Rava was younger than Reb Zera, so therefore I think it makes sense to say that Kilu Rava had said something, and then he heard that Reb Zera, who was older, had also said a similar thing. So he's like, okay, sweet, I guess I'm on the right track. I don't know if I said Rava was older or younger than Rabbi Zera, but I definitely meant to say that he's younger than Rabbi Zera. If you have three people who ate together, okay. Oh, so if two people finished eating and one person is still eating, so he stops eating, in order to allow the other two people to make the zimun and bench and get on their way. But if one person finishes his meal and two people are still eating, they do not have to interrupt their eating in order to make a zimun so that this one guy who's done can go. Vilo, the two people don't stop for one person who's finished. But Rav Papa, him and one other person stopped eating in order to allow his son Abamar to make a bracha, to bench. So we see that two people do stop for one person. Oh, no, it's different by Rav Papa because he was just being lifnim mishuas hadin. He was he didn't have to, him and the other person didn't have to stop for his son to bench, but there's nothing wrong with it, and they were being nice, and they stopped eating so that his son could bench and go. Fine. Yehuda bar Meremar, Umar bar Avashi, V'Rav Acha midifti. Oh, so these three great individuals, Yehuda bar Meremar, Umar bar Avashi, and Rav Acha midifti, Kaiche Rifta, Bade Adade, they were eating bread together. And they were all equally great. There was no one of them that was greater, as Rashi says, b'chokhma u'v'zikna. They were no greater in wisdom or in age than the other. So they didn't know who to give the honor of leading the zimun. Now, interestingly, we said the other day that it's not necessarily about who's greatest, it's about who does Mayim Achronim first. But in any event, they wanted to honor the greatest of them with leading the zimun. So Yasve become Ibailu, and they were sitting and they asked, when we say that three people, when the Mishnah says that three people who ate together have a chiyuv to make a zimun, is that only where there is a one of them is objectively greater than everybody else? So then they give him the honor of leading the zimun. So, but maybe where everyone is equally great, like in our case, well then maybe let's just not make a zimun, everyone should just bench on their own. So Baruch Inish Lenafshe, so what they did was everybody just benched on their own. Okay? Also the comment to Meremar, so then they came in front of Meremar, who was, I guess, the father of Yehuda bar Meremar, one of the people in our story. Amalu, and he said to them, Meremar said to them, Yidei bracha yatzasem, while you were yotze for benching, Yidei zimun lo yatzasem, you were not yotze making a zimun. You missed out on making a zimun. You should have done so, and you didn't. So we see that it's not about giving the greatest person the honor of benching. As long as three people are sitting together, they make a zimun. And if you're going to say, okay, well then let's just go back and make up the zimun, ein zimun l'mafreya, you don't make a zimun l'mafreya. Once you miss it, you miss it. Next time you guys eat together, you'll make a zimun. Oh, so this is interesting. What do you do if, it's Shabbos, you show up at your friend's house, they're benching, you didn't eat with them, and what do? Do you just sit there when they're making a zimun? Do you answer with them? Is there something special that you say? So, if you found them when they are making a zimun, and you didn't eat with them, what do you respond to the zimun? Rav Zvid Amar Baruch U'Mevorach. So Rav Zvid says Baruch U'Mevorach. Rav Papa Amar One Amin. Okay, and let's explain what this means. So v'lo and they don't argue. Hada ashkachinu de ka'amri nevarich. Hada ashkachinu de ka'amri baruch. Ashkachinu de ka'amri nevarich. Omer baruch u'mevarich. Ashkachinu de ka'amri baruch. One amin. So basically, if you find them and they're saying, right, nevarich shachanu mishalo, and then everyone's saying baruch shachanu mishalo v'tuvo chayinu. So at that point, you join them, and instead of saying Baruch Shachanu Mishalov to Chayinu, because you didn't eat with them, so you can't say Blessed who we ate from him, because he didn't eat. So he just says Baruch U'Mevorach, right? So while everyone says Baruch Shachanu Mishalov to Chayinu, you just say Baruch U'Mevorach. But if he found them when they were already saying Baruch Shechanam Mishalov Tvochinu, so then you just say Amen. Now I think that Lemaisa, the Shulchan Aruch says that you say Baruch Umvarach Tamid La'olam Vod. Right? So when they say Baruch Shechanam Mishalov Tvochinu, you say Baruch Umvarach Tamid La'olam Vod. And if it's 10 people, then you'd say Baruch Umvarach Elokeinu Tamid La'olam Vod. I believe that is the halacha. But if anybody knows different, I would love to be corrected. Or I could also just look it up. Okay. Weiter. Tani Chada. We have one brayso that says Amen Acher Berachos Areza Meshubach. Oh, so we have one brayso that says if you say Amen after your own bracha, it's a geshmaka thing. V'tani Idach Areza Meguna. And a different brayso says it's taka a very bad thing. It's a disgraceful thing. Lo kasha ha b'boni Yerushalayim ha b'shai brachos. Oh, if you say, right, of course you say Baruch Atah Hashem Boni Barachim of Yerushalayim Amen. Right? So after Boni Yerushalayim, it's a good thing to say Amen. But after any of the other brachos, it's a bad thing to say Amen. Because Bonei Berachim of Yerushalayim represents the end of the 3 deoraisa brachos of benching. And Sfardim Lemaisa actually do it in other places also whenever they finish a series of brachos. For example, at the end of Yishtabach and Pesukei D'Zimra, they say Baruch Chaya Olamim Amen. Right? They also say at the end of Mariv, right? Shomer Amo Yisrael La'ad Amen. Right? So they do it whenever there's a series of brachos. Ashkenazim just do it really at the end of the bracha of Boni Yerushalayim and benching, and that signifies the end of the deoraisa brachas. And the 4th blessing in benching is midirabanan avatov v'ametiv. Okay, Abaye anile bekala kechi dilishmu pa'alim leikumu da'atov v'ametiv lav deoraisa. So Abaye, when he would get up to Boni Berachim Yerushalayim, he would say Amen in a loud voice, so that all of the workers who were charging by the hour, so that they should be done and get back to work, because the 4th bracha is only the Rabbanan, and the Rabbanan didn't want you to say that bracha when you're in the middle of working on somebody else's dime. Rav Ashi anile belichisha kechi d'lo nizalzelu b'atov v'ametiv. Whereas Rav Ashi would whisper Amen after Bonei Berachim of Yerushalayim, because he was concerned that if he would say it loud, people would not treat the 4th bracha with enough respect. They can say, oh yeah, benching is really over after Bonei Berachim of Yerushalayim, and they wouldn't treat Atov V'ametiv with respect, so therefore you would just whisper it. Shkayach. Cool. Shkayach, everybody. Interesting page, right? We talked about the chiv of zimun. Who is chayiv in zimun? How many people are chayiv in zimun? What do you do when you find other people who are benching and you didn't eat with them? So, some interesting things on this page. And I hope you guys have a day that is as interesting as this page, if not even more interesting. Peace out, my friends. Enjoy.